Hey, folks, if you want early access to episodes as they drop, click that subscribe button, join us, and together we'll fix the broken U.S. healthcare system. We'll see you on the next one.
Get ready to take control of your healthcare. Here's your host, Ray Kober.
Tell me, when you sit down with a client or just the overarching mission of your firm, remind us of the name of your firm.
eBen Benefits.
eBen Benefits. I'm getting the sense that your approach is very similar to mine, and that you're not ramming things down your prospective clients' throats. What is your approach? Let's say, and I understand that there's going to be a variation depending upon the size of the group, but let's say for argument's sake, it is a good candidate for self-funding. It's a 200 employees on plan type of a group. What's your approach, and how should a business leader, someone that is tasked with kind of managing this expense, think about it?
Well, I think, I always say to people, we still believe strongly some of the foundations of what our business, our profession does, which is we still need to have somebody involved as the quarterback. We still need to have very good customer service. And what we're finding is the larger the agency, the less important that piece is. And so those are pieces that I think have to be important. Relationships matter, and the ability to trust somebody is good. The thing that I've noticed in the market is we have, a lot of different people in the business who have very differing levels of knowledge and skills in terms of being able to sell benefits and talk about benefits. And for me, it's come down to that conversation about how you finance healthcare that is, in part, very much an exploration of what's your risk tolerance? What are you willing to do? Are you scared of any risk? Because that's not only fully insured versus self-funded, or fully insured level funded versus self-funded, but it's also, if you're going to be self-funded, what's your spec deductible? What's your specific stop loss deductible? And does it need to be low? Can it be higher? Are you willing to pay less and take more risk? Or do you want to pay as much as possible and take as little risk as possible and find those balance areas? And then it becomes, what do you want your plan to look like? How do you want it to really operate? I mean, it's the point that you said about like the imaging centers. Like, how do you start building systems that actually make it easy for consumers to know, if I go here, it's $7,000. If I go here, it's $700. And by the way, you have a financial incentive to go here instead of there, because we're not only going to say you're going to pay less than what your out-of-pocket max is or what your deductible is, we might actually eat some part of that because you chose that place. But then you run into the hardcore infrastructure issues. How many TPAs are set up to do that? Mm-hmm. How many can actually administer in the right way? I've been talking to Garner Health about their approach, which is very much like looking at measuring doctors on their outcomes, mm-hmm. and then not doing what everybody else does, which is tell the doctors what questions are on the test. Because you know what? They're doctors. They only got through college and medical school and where they are today because they are really good at passing exams.
Rote memorization.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so you tell me I've got to do these 10 things to be considered top, I'll do all 10 of those things. If you don't know what those criteria are, and I'm simply measuring you based on how often does somebody have to have a revision to back surgery when that's your primary practice. Mm. How many people have had complications as a result of that? What's your net cost on those? How often do you start with PT or other approaches? And so building a system that says, hey, and it's, the model that they talk about is like, it's the people that matter, not the building. So you got 15 people in that practice who are on cardiology. These 3 are the good 3. The other 12 are okay.
Yeah. But
these are the 3 that you want to go to. The Cancer Study Group did a great study a few years ago about if you have breast cancer in Philadelphia, does the likelihood of you having a successful outcome from that course of treatment can be blocks different in terms of what practice you go to have that treatment.
Sure.
And so this is the place where the really interesting thing is going to be how big data starts to play into this. The surest plan designs that United has done are actually brilliant because they're really doing applied consumer-driven plans for the first time. My only concern is that how much are they saying, this is the person we're going to charge you a $10 copay to go to versus this person we're going to charge you a $60 copay to go to. Is this person really not only cheaper if you're United, but are they also a better provider?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what weight do they put in that scoring?
Yeah.
And each of those things become ways that you start to figure out what people want to do. The other thing is very few people want to do anything first year. They just want to have confidence in somebody who's going to look at their stuff, give them real insight.
Right.
And, I always tell people I'm from the mountains of North Carolina. I don't trust people who live on flat land to begin with. And I don't trust anybody who gives me the reports that they think I ought to show somebody else.
Right.
Because I'm assuming they're only telling me what's good, not what's bad.
Right.
And so this is a place where I think a lot of agencies are not set up to do the hardcore data analytics, digging into it, and then asking questions.
Yeah.
I've got this great guy who works for me named Wayne Ellis, who just really, really smart, a guy that you would not in a million years think, oh, this is the guy that I would do this to. Hired him as account manager. He got in to start using Excel and just fell in love with it. And now is the guy who, we have a self-funded client, they have a weird claim, and he's got questions about it. He'll call the account manager at the carrier or the TPA, be like, what's going on with this claim? It was not paid properly? It should have been this, 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 and this. And they'll call me, and it's like, why is this guy calling me like every day? And it's like, because you need to call him back and give him the answers to his questions.
You got to get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there's an answer to it that's good, no big deal. If there's an answer to this question that you've fucked up,
Yeah.
he is not going to stop calling you until you fix it.
Right.
So fix it.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And, how many of our counterparts don't have that type of oversight on claims? And to your point, it's really tough to find good TPAs in our experience. I could really kind of count them on one hand. And ultimately, you never know until you personally place a client and have experience with them. And then you really have an appreciation for, okay, are they walking the walk that, they talked? And most of them, I hate to say it, are not. I want to get back to something that you touched on, though, in terms of risk. If we're in the risk business, that's what insurance is after all, right? So I've gone on record as saying that a properly designed level funded plan is inherently less risky than a fully insured plan. Agree or disagree with that?
I agree with that, but I think the devil's in the details. And so part of the starting point of your question is important. You talk to somebody who's a commercial insurance agent or broker.
Yeah.
A lot of those folks went to school. They went through risk management programs. They worked in a carrier. Now they're out working for some big, small, whatever agency, and they're all very specialized. I live in a high-rise condominium building in downtown Durham, North Carolina. Our agent on our building is somebody from Hub in New Jersey.
Yep.
Because, again, high-rise condominium buildings, somewhat of a specialty risk, but that's a guy who has done one thing consistently, which is he reads every insurance contract that comes across his desk because he's got to make sure that nothing is off. In our business, and I do this all the time when I'm teaching level funded, self-funded, or whatever. We stand in a room. I did this in Georgia 2 months ago. And I stood in front of the room and I was like, how many people in here have read an entire insurance contract in the last 3 years? And from the stage, Ray, I can almost tell you who those 5 people are before they raise their hands.
Right.
Because on our side of the business, on the EB side, we're not taught about risk management.
Yep.
We're not taught to think about risk tolerance.
Yep.
I mean, the word risk is, in the name of the agency that bought us, but on the EB side,
Yep.
it's and part of the reason for that is very straightforward. If you're buying fully insured health insurance,
Yep.
you know that product has been reviewed by 18 people in the Department of Financial Services in Albany.
Right.
And you know that there's no way they would have ever signed off on that
Right.
without having done a bunch of checks.
Yep.
And so you know that if you got a claim that Anthem's going to deny, you also got the ability to pick up the phone, call somebody at Anthem, and be like, hey, what the hell is this? This isn't right, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Level funded is really becoming a little more of that advanced level of knowledge. And one of the things that I'm running to is very few agents
Yep.
are really aware of the fact that there are different things they have to do. And the level funding class I teach, I have a great kind of opening slide, and it's an optical illusion. It's a guy that if you look at him, he could either be looking at you,
Right.
or he's looking to his left.
Picasso.
And
Right.
the question is, I was like, this is the perfect analogy because we sell level funded, and I hear this word all the time,
Yeah.
that it's just like being fully insured.
No.
And the other side of it is like, but the reality is that level funded is self-funded with complications.
Yeah.
And so, and it's for me, it's like contract terms.
Yes.
You ask 90% of agents who sell level funded what a contract term is, they don't know the answer.
That's scary.
And I mean, I had this situation happen with a TPA that asked me to help them a couple of years ago start a level funded plan.
Right.
And so I went through, told them all the things, and I was like, never sell a stop loss policy that's not at least 1218 with terminal liability, not TLO, true terminal liability. So at 18 months, you're doing the claims reconciliation, you're reserving for IBNR, you're giving back a share of the claims or all the claims reserved back, or a 1227 without terminal liability, because that's the only way you really can feel confident that you get beyond the likelihood of having any claims come in after the end of the contract.
Explain terminal liability.
So terminal liability is I'm truly limiting your liability for any claims that come in to be paid after this point in time. So it almost becomes like a 12 infinity kind of contract, but it's basically saying, because again, at the core level funded, you got three pieces in that rate.
Right.
It's not a premium because there's not an insurance contract.
Right.
But that amount that you're paying every month, about a third of it is stop loss.
Yep.
About a third of it is admin, maybe less, but not often.
Yep.
And the remainder is what you're putting aside in the claims reserve.
Yep.
And so when you got a 1218 with terminal liability, you're going to say, hey, if we get to the end of the 18th month and you have money left over in your claims account, then at that point in time, we're going to project what we think is left. What's out there that has been paid, we're going to do an incurred calculation. And let's say you got $10,000 and we think there's a couple $1,000s in claims out there, then we've got $8,000 to distribute back to you. But we're assuming liability for all those claims that come in from here on out. And if it's more than $2,000, then we're where we are.
Right.
We're stuck with it.
Right.
Which is different than terminal liability option, which is I'm going to exercise an extension of my stop loss contract by 3 or 6 months.
So here's an interesting question: is the liability assumed by the stop loss carrier, or is that the employer sponsors liability?
So under ERISA, if you are self-funded, the employer or the plan sponsor is assuming complete responsibility for all claims. But they're buying stop loss to limit their liability either on a specific basis,
Yep.
one person up to a certain number,
Yep.
or in aggregate, everybody covered below that spec deductible.
Yep.
And so the short answer to your question is it depends. Ultimately, the employer has liability. The stop loss should be designed in a way to protect them. But this is where there's the gap of knowledge. Tell me a 5-life group that's going to buy a level funded plan that really understands what the hell they're buying.
Right.
They don't exist.
Yeah.
It's just another way they're buying health insurance in their minds.
Right.
And the more we dig into these problems, I think it's going to create other problems down the road. Like I'm a believer that most legislation in America happens because the cousin, best friend, or relative of a member of Congress or a senator runs into a problem, and all of a sudden now we need legislation to keep that person from people like him from ever being heard it before.
Right.
And level funded, if we're not careful, is going to bite us like that.
Interesting.
But this TPA that I was helping,
Yeah.
I said never do less than 1218 terminal liability, 1227. You're going to make sure that people don't have claims that come in that are uncovered.
Right.
So they called me a couple weeks ago, and they said, "Hey, we've got a guy. One of our sales reps was really trying hard to sell this piece of business, and he, did it. Got this group sold. They were paying in over the course of the year $250,000 into their claims reserve. Within 5 months, that had $1 million in claims, and so
It's upside down.
but he had pressed hard." On the fixed cost.
Right.
And so the group bought a 12-12 contract with a terminal liability option that specifically said you can only exercise the terminal liability option if you are moving this group back to being fully insured. Well, the group is over 50. In North Carolina, that's a small group. I know in New York it's 100.
100, yeah.
But they were over 50.
Yep.
So they couldn't go to the fully insured market because they were dogs.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way anybody was going to write them.
Right.
And so they were able to convince Cigna to replace the TPA as the new carrier for their renewal on their level funded plan. They did a 12-12 contract, and they had no run-out protection on their stop loss.
Ugh.
They had no run-in protection on the Cigna contract.
Ugh.
And so this group now... And what's interesting is this: the TPA sales rep was calling the folks at the TPA saying, no, we got to take all the liability. I mean, this is just the way it works. And we're like, no, dude, that's not at all the way it works. It's the group's liability. You bent over backwards to sell a case to one of your biggest brokers, and it's going to bite you. And when it bites you, you're going to lose that relationship, and that broker is going to have a ton of liability. And now you've created, the opening fire of a storm,
right,
that is going to become a major, major problem. And it's because people don't understand that it is so fundamentally different.
Right. Yeah, but had they gone back, and if they had the proper consigliere, they had the proper counsel, and they mirrored, so they're coming from a fully insured plan. They mirror the SBC for that fully insured plan, the SBD for that fully insured plan, and they have the proper stop loss in place. Then if lightning strikes and you have 3 heart, transplant recipients on that group, no matter how small it is, they're covered. But the devil is in the details. And and I always tell my clients, and personally, if I'm going to read anything, I'm reading what's not covered.
Yeah.
I'm comparing 2 documents. Where are you coming from? What are we proposing? How do they line up? And if they don't line up precisely, how don't they line up precisely? And that's what you have to focus on. Because my biggest concern about being a consultant is missing a detail that exposes my client. I don't ever want to be that guy. I want to know with 100% certainty that the plan that I'm putting them on is at least as risky as the plan that they are coming from, but no more risky.
Yeah.
And I think that's the job of any good consultant, but it's very easy, I think, particularly in busy season with a lot of stuff going on, to miss stuff like that. And that's the kind of shit that keeps me up at night. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, we've had multiple situations in the last year where the level funded contracts got a 30-day notice on it. And so the group doesn't make a decision until, 20 days prior to renewal.
Right.
And then somebody's got an ID card. It's still active. I mean, all these things that happen.
Sure.
That in a level funded world don't work the way they work in a fully insured world. And now all of a sudden groups are getting like another month of premium that they weren't anticipating.
Right.
All these little gotchas, like nobody pays attention to minimum premium or minimum ag attachment points.
Yep.
And you got a group that was at 30 and they dropped to 20.
Yep.
And they had monthly accommodation and all these other things in their level funded plan. And now they're being told, well, you didn't hit minimum, and so we reimbursed $100,000 for the claims more than we should have. You owe us $100,000.
Right.
Those are hardcore realities.
Yeah, that stuff happens every day.
And so, like, for me, it's the simple things like, did we make sure there's not a minimum ag attachment on this?
Right.
What are our rules to get out mid-year if we have to?
Right.
How do we anticipate part of these problems? Because there's business realities.
Right.
And I think that's the place you should get bit.
Yeah, and our clients don't know this business, right? They just don't know it. They know their business, and they rely on professionals like us to know our business so that we can properly advise them. And the flip side though is we're talking about saving meaningful bottom line dollars for these organizations that are now spending, on average, you have 100-person group, you're spending over $1 million likely. Could you spend $500,000 or $600,000? You actually can.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen without some risk. You taking on some risk and, just kind of diving in, getting a better understanding of what's possible. And to your point, I'm a big fan of getting the boots on the ground, informed and engaged. And I know there are certain people in our industry that are just like, you can't educate people and make them better consumers of healthcare. I disagree. I think you can, during open enrollment meetings, through communication, let employees know that this is an unsustainable expense, that if we keep on this path, it's going to go away sooner or later. And what the organization has decided to do instead is migrate to a plan that incentivizes employees to make the best decision they can. And when they do that, their health expense is virtually free. Yeah. And so you then get people moving away from that big hospital system, charging 10x for a major diagnostic exam, that they would, making a choice going down the street or having a TPA that advises them properly. And so ultimately, I think it really boils down to folks like us doing our job, laying it out for our clients and leading them, hopefully, to a better understanding of what their options are. And then it's up to them to pull the trigger.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
I mean, we have to create some level of accountability and create the right financial incentives, and then ultimately you got to watch the claims. You got to watch the claims and know what's going on.
Yeah. No, and the other thing that we really didn't touch on, and we're kind of out of time today, but it just in terms of a CFO, a CEO, HR leader, understanding that now after the passage of the CAA, their asses are on the line. They have a fiduciary obligation to spend plan dollars wisely in the same way that they do with their retirement plans. And now, the litigation is starting to come. And so I'm sure that's part of your conversation with these folks.
It is. And I'll tell you what's interesting about that is and I say to my clients all the time, shop me. Because I know what I cost. I know what I do for it. Like we totally changed our model by doing the risk management approach to benefits, by actually making a compliance promise to our clients saying, hey, we're going to do the work for you and we'll indemnify you for our work. And then to say we're going to be completely transparent what we're getting paid. We've moved, I think, all of our large group clients, so 100 plus, to a consulting fee that we're billing and collecting. We're not letting a TPA doing it, any of those things. Mm-hmm. And I've had people, how can you afford to give a compliance promise? How can you, why are you okay sending your clients bills? It's like, the compliance promise is easy. The business risk greatly exceeds the legal risk.
Yeah.
Because if I don't help a client do something, I can't get sued, but they're going to fire me, and that's more expensive.
Right.
On the consulting fee side, I would much rather send a client a bill every month for them to pay every month.
Yep.
Because in my mind, when they get that bill, the question is going to be, are they worth it? And I like that accountability. I like that accountability throughout the year,
Right.
because I never worry about it. I think that what CFOs, business owners, everybody else has to do is stop and think, what's this person's motivation for wanting this product?
Right.
I start every prospect meeting with hey, we want to listen, so tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you want your benefits to look like
Right.
in 5 years. Tell me what you hate about your benefits today.
Yeah.
Tell me about your business plans. Because in that environment, what you're doing is you're listening. You're stopping the sales process and you're becoming a consultant and you're bringing value in that.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not here to save you money, because saving money is a false promise.
Mm-hmm.
But I can more than likely help you stabilize what your cost changes look like every year, because this is where we're going to start digging into. You want more people getting their physicals. Let's figure out a way to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got people who are type 2 diabetics. Let's get them a very active disease management program, because they're going to get the greatest value long term from that. Each of these elements become an essential part of listening, knowing that every client is different. And yet I've run into competitors who like, well, we've got this special program that'll do this. And my answer is like, well, what are they making on that? Like, literally, what kind of back-end revenue are they making? Why are they pushing that versus literally saying, there are 8 things like this in the market. Here's the ones that I think are the best fit for you, but let's talk to them.
Yeah.
And that's the place where I would say the big houses have built a model like, hey, we're the best. We know what we're doing. And the truth of the matter is, every one of them are conflicted to the hilt on every solution that they're bringing to the table, because they've all got back-end revenue.
Yeah.
So
No, it's true. And so what David's referring to, for anybody that, might not be familiar, the typical model is the broker is paid through the carriers, right? It's through commission, and there's what's disclosed and then there's what's not disclosed, and there's a lot of money flowing back and forth. And so I admire that. I admire a model where you're really kind of putting your money where your mouth is and being transparent and saying, hey, you're going to get an invoice from us on a monthly basis. And, it's hiding in plain sight. There it is. Yep. And are we worth it or are we not? And I think that is admirable, because you're basically putting it out there on display. And it's something that your client, they probably don't appreciate it as much as they should. Mm-hmm. But I think big picture, it's just honest at the end of the day. Yeah. I admire that.
Well, and to bring it full circle, it's I now know what I'm worth.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I do, this is what I cost, and if you want to do business with me, great.
Right.
And if you don't, I understand that. Best wishes to you.
Right.
But the difference is, I'm going to be the guy who, you got a problem, I'm going to solve it for you.
Right.
I got a client email me earlier today about a disability question.
Yeah.
Here's the answer. Bang.
Right.
And I'm not going to sit there and incrementally bill you.
Right.
But I'm the guy that when you need me, you're going to need me. And as we're looking at claims, all of those become the people who are really invested in their clients.
Right.
And I've said to a bunch of people, and I think this is where my client growth has come from, is like, after 6 months, you'll realize when I said I'm not much of a salesperson, you'll know how true that was, because you'll stop thinking about me as being somebody selling you something.
Yeah.
I'm your guy. I'm your business partner.
Right.
And I have a large client in Western Carolina affected by the floods.
Yeah.
The CFOs call me like, dude, what are we going to do with our health plan?
Yeah.
We have 1,000 people covered. Nobody's working for the next month. How are we going to resolve this? What are we going to do? And it's like, do CFOs normally call their benefit consultants to ask those questions?
Right.
No.
They don't.
They call me because they know that I am
You're a partner.
as much an employee there as anybody else.
Love that.
And I think that's the kind of trusted relationship. And it does get back to that fiduciary piece. If you're willing to say to your client, I'm here to help you.
Yep.
And I'm bringing my expertise. There's a million people offering great ideas. These 3 suck. These 4 are okay. These 2 will actually do something.
Right.
And I have vendors call me all the time, Ray.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we're doing this, and it's $10 a month, and we pay a 10% commission off of that $10. I'm like, okay, great. If I take it without commission, can I sell it for $9?
Right.
I mean, you could. All right, great. That's more interesting to me because I'd rather tell my client, hey, this is $9. I'm not making any money on it.
Right.
But it's funny. There's so many hidden deals.
Oh, everywhere.
I have found 3 of the top 5 agencies who have, with almost every carrier and PBM, some kind of
Backdoor deal.
Drug deal.
Yeah.
I mean, bonus. I mean, all kinds of. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, I tell my audience, like, folks, those tickets to the Masters, those trips out to Pebble Beach, the Kentucky Derby, that shit costs money. Where do you think the money's coming from, and how much money are you leaving on the table?
Yeah.
And so I really admire that, honestly, David, like that business model and being transparent. I think it's underestimated, but it's so important because it's just a dirty business. And if you have a client and they understand where every nickel and dime is being spent, it's also very smart because it would be very difficult for them to break away from you. And it's not, folks, that if you've been with a broker for a long time, chances are you have more than just the business relationship. You consider them a friend, you maybe even consider them like an extension of your family. That's kind of the relationship, right? So it's very hard to break away from that. But you do need to take a look at what they are doing. You owe it. You have an obligation to your people, to your organization. Take a look at what they're doing. And I promise you, they may be wonderful people that you love to hang out with, go to a game, go to dinner, go to lunch, etc. But that person is likely not the person that's making the decisions that affect your options when it comes time for open enrollment. Those decisions are being made in the executive boardroom, and in that boardroom, they have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders. And so what you're, suggesting, David, is that you're kind of flipping that upside down, saying, we're not for everyone, but we do know our worth. We know what we put into this. And I will say, for the record, it is much, 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 much more labor intensive and difficult to do the type of work that you're doing than to simply spreadsheet a bunch of options at time of open enrollment and just say, okay, you're going to pick the less of all evils, and we're here if you need us.
Yeah,
that's hitting the easy button by far. What you're talking about requires a lot of work, and I think done right, it's well worth the price of admission. With that, where can people find you?
So I'm ebenbenefits.com. I'm also on LinkedIn as David Curtis Smith, DAVIDCURTIS SMITH. And, I'm heavily involved in ABIP, so it's not that hard to find me, I feel like.
Yep.
The problem with a name like David Smith, you don't really always know what you're going to get. But I would say that, my cell phone number is always the best way to get me, 919-491-4321.
That's a good number, David.
It's a great number. When I went to Verizon, I'm like, I give you all $300 a month. You better give me a good number. This is like 1997. But I would say this, Ray, as I would talk to people, my attitude, I have an attitude of prosperity with the knowledge that to be good, I have to also be selective and have a little bit of I've got to find the people who are good partners.
Yeah.
And I think when you have people who are desperate for your business.
Yeah. Yep. Desperation is the kiss of death in sales.
And
that's a book I haven't written yet.
You need to get on that. I'll contribute a chapter to it if you'd like.
Yeah.
But I would say that's the place that matters. If you've got somebody who, again, if you're doing large group, and by large group, I really mean like 100, 150, 250 plus.
Yeah.
And they have more than 20 clients in that, they're not doing the job. And somebody else is doing the job. If you got, I know for me with my self-funded clients, I'm looking at claims on a monthly basis. I've got some I look at on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
it doesn't take me a lot of time to do it, but I'm at least looking to figure out what's going on.
Sure.
And that's the thing I would say. If they've got a huge block of business and they're doing all of this and it's 100+ size business, you probably aren't getting the attention that you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and I'm not saying I'm the right answer. I'm just saying the truth of the matter is there are people out there who are really paying attention to their clients.
Yeah.
Who are really thinking about what do we need. And you can figure those people out pretty quickly.
Yeah, no doubt.
So.
Let's leave it there, brother.
All right, man. Thanks for your time.
I appreciate you coming and enlightening us. We've got to have you back, and you learn us a few more things next time.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great one.
All right, that's a wrap. Hit like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.